Shannon Sharpe didn't sugarcoat it. When Kevin Stefanski hesitated to name Shedeur Sanders as even the backup quarterback, instead eyeing Bailey Zappe, Sharpe called it exactly what fans were already shouting: sabotage. On Nightcap, Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco-Johnson lit into the Browns for their baffling handling of Sanders, saying the franchise is clearly not interested in developing him, just using his name and presence to sell hype. With the team refusing to trade or release him and no clear path to playing time, the message from Stefanski seems less about football decisions and more about organizational dysfunction. This is where Nightcap hit a nerve. Fans didn't just agree, they amplified it. Viewers swarmed the comments with outrage, calling the team's strategy insulting, Stefanski's position unjustifiable, and Shedeur's situation a career chokehold. The humor and authenticity of Sharpe and Ocho made the critique even sharper, with many praising them as the only ones willing to speak the truth on a situation that reeks of mismanagement and favoritism. The Browns have done it again. Somehow, someway they've managed to stir up another quarterback controversy, and this time it's got UNC and Ocho completely fed up. You've got Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco sitting on Nightcap, visibly annoyed, shaking their heads like they've just seen the Browns throw a third interception in the first quarter. Because while the rest of the NFL is trying to develop their young talent, the Browns are playing musical chairs with quarterbacks. Again. And the latest name caught in the mess? Shedeur Sanders. Let's get straight to it. Kevin Stefanski refuses to name Shedeur Sanders as the official backup quarterback behind Dillon Gabriel. That's bad enough. But now reports are flying that Bailey Zappe, yes, Bailey Zappe, might be handed the job instead. And this is where everything starts to unravel. Shannon and Ocho did not hold back. The second this news broke, it was like the floodgates opened. Shannon's voice went up, eyebrows raised, calling out the absurdity of it all. Ocho, animated as ever, basically summed up what every frustrated viewer was thinking. What are we doing here? Because let's be honest, none of this makes sense. Shedeur Sanders, who the Browns brought in with all the flash and hype, who fans were told was the future, who drew massive attention both on and off the field, is now sitting behind not one, but potentially two guys in the depth chart. And he's not even being considered for the QB2 spot? That's not a snub. That's a calculated choice. And according to a large chunk of NFL Twitter and the Nightcap crew, it looks a whole lot like sabotage. Viewers didn't just roll their eyes, they went straight to the comments to vent. One said it plain, they only using Shedeur for marketing purposes. Another took it even further, the fact the Browns refused to trade or release Shedeur though clearly not interested in him being QB. And honestly, that's the sentiment swirling right now. Because if you're not going to let the kid play, or even compete, what is the plan? At this point, the fanbase is looking around like, why is Kevin Stefanski still employed? Seriously, that was a real comment. Not a troll. Just a fan echoing the frustration so many are feeling. Because for years now, the Browns have been that team, the one that stockpiles quarterbacks and then squanders their potential in spectacular fashion. And now they're doing it again. But this time it's not just about football. Shedeur Sanders comes with a spotlight, a name, a brand. And fans are starting to wonder if the Browns were more interested in tapping into that media energy than they ever were in developing him as a legitimate quarterback. The marketing angle? Yeah, it's getting louder. The fact that Shedeur still hasn't been traded or released, despite not being in the mix for QB2, just adds fuel to that fire. If he's not part of the plan, why keep him? Unless, well, you want the attention that comes with his name, his following, and let's not forget, his famous father. So here we are. The Browns have lit another match, and Shannon and Ocho are the only ones calling it like it is. Their Nightcap reaction wasn't just entertaining, it was brutally honest. Shannon, always ready with a sharp observation, pointed out the obvious. This is exactly the kind of dysfunction that keeps teams stuck in mediocrity. Ocho, comparing himself to Baby Boy, brought that perfect mix of humor and disbelief that made the entire segment so relatable. But under the jokes and laughs was real frustration. Because they've seen this pattern before. Promising players getting mishandled, coaches making strange depth chart decisions, and franchises pretending like it's all just part of the process. Nah, fans are tired of the process. They want answers. And right now, Kevin Stefanski isn't giving any. Just vibes. And clearly not good ones. Let's talk about the Zappe situation for a second. Bailey Zappe, a solid backup in New England, was never supposed to be the Browns' big solution. But here he is, apparently leapfrogging Shedeur for the QB2 spot. That move alone has set off alarm bells. Why him? Why now? It's not that Zappe's terrible. It's that the decision doesn't make sense in the bigger picture. The Browns brought in Shedeur with the future in mind. Young quarterback, high upside, strong pedigree, built-in media presence. But when it's time to get reps, suddenly he's invisible. And it's not even about starting. Fans aren't demanding Shedeur get thrown in as QB1 overnight. They're just asking for fair development. A real chance. A clear path. Instead, he's being iced out without explanation. And that's the part that's driving everyone up the wall. The silence. The weird, unspoken decision-making that leaves everyone, including the players, guessing. It's not just poor optics. It's a leadership failure. So now the question becomes, is this Stefanski trying to protect himself? Is he playing it safe with veterans he thinks he can trust? Or is this deeper, a fundamental misunderstanding of how to manage young talent? Because this isn't just about who throws the ball. It's about trust, development, building for the future. And right now, Stefanski is signaling that he doesn't trust Shedeur enough to even hold a clipboard as backup. And when that message gets out, good luck managing that locker room. Shannon and Ocho saw it immediately. The tension, the confusion, the disappointment. They knew this wasn't just a typical roster shuffle. This was a coach making a statement, whether he meant to or not. And viewers picked up on it too. The comments weren't subtle. They weren't off base. They were right on the money. People are watching this unfold and asking the same question over and over again. What are the Browns doing? Because when your quarterback room becomes a soap opera, you're not building a team, you're writing a script for disaster. Shedeur deserves more than this. And honestly, so do the fans. If the Browns aren't interested in developing him, someone else will be. But keeping him locked into a role that doesn't even exist? That's not strategy. That's ego. Or worse, marketing. And at this point, the Browns front office needs to make a decision. Are they trying to win games or trend on social media? Because you can't do both. Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson called it like they saw it. No sugarcoating. No excuses. Just pure frustration wrapped in expert analysis. And thank God someone is saying it, because the silence from the Browns' leadership is deafening. Whether or not Shedeur gets a fair shot in Cleveland is still up in the air. But one thing's clear. Fans are watching. Closely. And they're not buying whatever narrative the Browns are trying to spin. So here we are, another week, another quarterback drama in Cleveland, and once again Kevin Stefanski is at the center of it. If you're tired of the Browns turning promising talent into footnotes, you're not alone. Let's hear it in the comments. Should Shedeur demand a trade? Is Stefanski the problem? And are the Browns just using him for clout? Hit that subscribe button if you're here for the chaos, and we'll be back with the next sports meltdown, because let's be real, there's always another one coming. It's almost like the Browns brought in Shedeur Sanders for the aesthetic. Flashy name, famous father, media buzz, jersey sales, the whole package. But when it comes to actual football decisions, they've left him in the corner like he's a prop. And yeah, fans noticed. Quickly. Because this wasn't some unknown rookie out of nowhere. This is Shedeur Sanders. His name was everywhere leading into the draft. Even if you weren't watching Colorado games, you knew about Shedeur. The charisma, the numbers, the swagger, it all had the makings of a breakout star. And now, the Browns are treating him like a third-string afterthought behind Bailey Zappe. That's where Shannon Sharpe really locked in. You could see it in his face. The moment he heard that Zappe might leapfrog Shedeur, it was like someone told him the Browns just signed Tim Tebow again. He looked around like, am I the only one seeing how ridiculous this is? And the wild part? He wasn't. The comments backed him up hard. Fans weren't just confused, they were mad. Rightfully so. Because let's not forget, this isn't a team stacked with QB depth and elite coaching pedigree. This is the Cleveland Browns. A franchise that's turned quarterback development into a punchline for the last 2 decades. And now here comes Kevin Stefanski, doubling down on that legacy by playing hot potato with a young quarterback who, by all accounts, deserves a shot. The trust is eroding, both in the locker room and with the fan base. There's this unspoken rule in sports. If you're gonna bench the future, you better have a damn good reason. Not just vibes. Not just veteran presence. You need receipts. You need tape. You need to be able to point to the field and say, that's why. But there's none of that here. Stefanski hasn't explained anything. No clear rationale, no public defense, no sign of a long-term development plan. Just silence. And in the NFL, silence speaks volumes. It tells players, don't get too comfortable. It tells fans, we're winging it. And it tells the media, start digging. And oh, they're digging. The second Bailey Zappe's name entered the chat, the speculation went nuclear. Is Shedeur clashing with the coaching staff? Is there internal tension with the front office? Is Stefanski just trying to protect his job by sticking with what he sees as a safer QB? That last one is getting the most traction, and it makes sense. Stefanski is on thin ice. He knows it. Everyone does. So instead of investing time into a young quarterback who might pay off long-term, he's hedging with names he knows. Safe bets. Guys who won't rock the boat. It's cowardly coaching. And it never works. Ocho said it best. Development doesn't happen on the bench. Especially not when your name is Shedeur Sanders and you've already proven you can handle pressure, media attention, and a spotlight brighter than most vets will ever see. The Browns aren't just stalling his progress. They're messing with his momentum. And in football, momentum is everything. This isn't like a defensive lineman sitting for a year. Quarterbacks need timing, rhythm, confidence. Representatives game speed. They need to be trusted, not boxed out by last-minute depth chart politics. And what's worse? The Browns seem fine with it. No urgency. No clarity. Just radio silence while the fanbase boils. At this point, the only people saying what needs to be said are Shannon and Ocho. And that's why their commentary hits so hard. They're not just former players, they're truth tellers. They're saying what fans are screaming at their screens every Sunday. That this team doesn't know how to handle talent. That they'll bring you in, hype you up, and then bury you the second a mediocre backup becomes available. That they'll dangle the dream in front of you, and then give the job to someone else. And here's the scary part. If this is how the Browns treat Shedeur Sanders, a player with pedigree, promise, and public attention, what hope is there for anyone else? Because this isn't just about one guy. It's about the culture, the leadership, the direction of a franchise that says it wants to win, but keeps stepping on its own cleats every time something real starts to develop. And right now, fans are done waiting for it to click. They're looking at Stefanski and saying, "We've seen enough." That quote. How is Kevin Stefanski still employed? That wasn't a throwaway comment. That was the comment. The one sitting under every Browns post, every nightcap clip, every fan discussion. Because this pattern isn't new. The Browns always find a way to complicate the quarterback position. Always. And maybe that's why this Shedeur drama is hitting harder than usual, because it's so predictable, so avoidable, so painfully on brand. And yet here we are. What makes it even messier is the loyalty to a coach who has, frankly, run out of excuses. At a certain point, the "we're developing a culture" narrative just doesn't work. You either produce results or you don't. And if the Browns think shuffling Bailey Zappe into the QB2 role is the solution, they're reading the wrong playbook. What's the endgame here? Keep Shedeur on the roster as a marketing pawn? Let Zappe take the snaps, Gabriel hold the reins, and hope no one notices the guy with actual star potential is collecting dust? That's not strategy. That's mismanagement. And the locker room sees it. You can bet players are side-eyeing this decision. Young guys especially. Because they know, if it can happen to Shedeur, it can happen to anyone. That's the real fallout. When leadership loses the room, everything starts to crack. Trust, buy-in, effort, it all dips when players start believing the politics matter more than performance. And at this point, Stefanski's choices are sending a message that couldn't be louder if he said it on a megaphone. We don't believe in Shedeur. Not enough to play him. Not enough to trade him. Not enough to let him grow. And honestly, that's a disgrace. Ocho and Shannon know what it looks like when a team gives up on a player too soon. They've seen it their entire careers. And watching this play out on Nightcap, you could feel the disappointment. Not just in the decision, but in how predictable it all is. Because Cleveland always does this. Always. And until something changes, at the top, it's going to keep happening. Quarterbacks will keep walking in full of hope and walking out wondering what went wrong. So yeah, Shedeur deserves better. Whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, he deserves a team that's going to actually invest in his development. Not play games with the depth chart and expect fans to just go along with it. The Browns had a chance to break the cycle. To do something different. But instead they stuck to the script, and now they're facing the backlash. And it's only going to get louder. When a franchise brings in a player with the profile, talent, and potential that Shedeur has, and then benches him for Bailey Zappe, that's not just a football decision. That's a choice that sends a message to everyone watching. And that message? We don't really care about developing our future. We just want to control it. You don't have to be a scout to see how absurd this all is. You've got a quarterback who was drafted with eyes wide open. He's not some late-round maybe. Shedeur has pedigree. He's the son of Deion Sanders. The spotlight has never been too bright for him. He was born into it. He's lived with expectations since day one and still managed to thrive. And now, somehow, we're supposed to believe he's not ready to be QB2 behind Dylan Gabriel, A rookie, because Bailey Zappe might be a safer option? Please, let's not play dumb. This isn't about readiness. It's not about performance. It's about control. And it's about fear. Kevin Stefanski is scared. That's what this comes down to. He's coaching not to win, but not to lose. There's a difference. And that mindset? It kills young talent every time. Because if Shedeur goes out there and starts playing well, really well, suddenly the pressure's on. The media wants to know why he wasn't starting earlier. The locker room wants to know what took so long. The fans? They want Stefanski gone. Because once it's clear you've been sitting on a real QB, your excuses evaporate. So instead, he buries Shedeur down the depth chart. Out of sight, out of mind. Keeps the veteran around. Hides behind competition talk that means absolutely nothing. And we've seen this before. This isn't new. This is what coaches do when they don't have a plan. When they're afraid of being exposed. When they want control more than results. But here's the thing about football, you can't hide talent for long. Especially not when people are watching. And with Shedeur, everyone's watching. And this is why fans are livid. Because they're not just mad for Shedeur, they're mad for themselves. They bought into this team. Into the rebuild. Into the whole new era narrative. And now it feels like that was all smoke and mirrors. You want to know how little faith people have left? Go read the comment sections. It's a war zone. And the most repeated question isn't even about the quarterbacks. It's, why is Kevin Stefanski still employed? That's where the conversation has gone. This isn't just about one player. It's about a head coach who fans believe has lost the plot completely. And here's the real kicker. This isn't even the first time he's done this. Stefanski has been juggling quarterbacks like he's auditioning for America's Got Talent. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Jacoby Brissett, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now it's Gabriel, Zappe, and somehow Shedeur stuck in limbo. At a certain point, it's not bad luck. It's bad leadership. Ocho and Shannon get it. They've been in those locker rooms. They've seen how fragile trust can be. And when a coach starts playing favorites instead of playing smart, it kills morale. You lose the guys. You lose the energy. And eventually you lose your job. But what's wild is that the Browns don't seem to care. They're not responding. Not clarifying. Not even trying to justify the decision. They're just letting the narrative run wild, hoping it burns out on its own. Spoiler, it won't. Because Shedeur isn't just a football player. He's a brand. A conversation. A presence. Keeping him on the sideline without explanation? That's going to keep the pressure on all season long. And if they think fans will just move on, they've clearly never met NFL fans. People want to root for Shedeur. They want to see what he can do. And right now they feel robbed. Like they were promised something bold and new, only to be handed the same old safe, stale system that's already failed them for years. And let's not pretend this doesn't impact Shedeur mentally. How could it not? You come in ready to work, ready to compete, ready to prove yourself, and you don't even get the chance. No real snaps. No clear role. Just tossed into the void of developing, while other guys with less upside leapfrog you. That chips away at a player. That erodes confidence. And worse, it breeds resentment. Not just from the player but from every other young guy on the roster who sees it happening. Because if they'll do this to someone like Shedeur, who won't they do it to? And when the locker room loses belief in the process, it's over. No rah-rah speech fixes that. No film session can patch it up. That's culture rot. And it starts at the top. The Browns could have done something different this time. They could have committed to a new era. Put their chips on a fresh, young quarterback with fire and talent. But instead, they're clinging to the same conservative nonsense that's kept them locked in mediocrity for decades. And it's not just Stefanski. It's the whole organization. The refusal to admit mistakes. The pride. The performative development. The PR-first football decisions. Shedeur deserved a clean slate. Instead, he got a franchise that's too scared to make real decisions and too stubborn to admit when they're wrong. And that's not going to change unless something snaps. Either Stefanski gets shown the door, or the Browns have to start facing the music. Because this fake quarterback competition? It's not fooling anyone. Not Shannon. Not Ocho. Not fans. Not players. Not even Zappe, probably. Everyone knows Shedeur has the tools. He's not perfect, no rookie is. But if you're not even giving him a chance to grow, then what are you doing? You don't draft a Ferrari and leave it in the garage because the Civic knows the system better. You put the keys in. You let it run. And if Stefanski can't see that, he's not the guy. So where does this go from here? Probably nowhere good. Because if the Browns actually do make Zappe the backup and let Shedeur waste away, they're not just tanking his value, they're tanking their credibility. And every week that goes by without a real explanation is just another PR hit they can't afford. Shannon and Ocho will keep talking about it. Fans will keep roasting them. And eventually, the story stops being about the quarterback and starts being about leadership failure. Which is how you go from messy to full-on meltdown. So yeah, this matters. It's not just about who's under center. It's about how this franchise treats its talent, manages its future, and responds to pressure. Right now, the Browns are failing that test on every level. At this point, it's not even about whether Shedeur Sanders is the second-best quarterback on the roster. It's about how blatantly the Browns are pretending like he's not in the room. You can feel the tension, and not just from the fans. This is the kind of move that gets whispered about in locker rooms. That quiet, growing resentment when a teammate's getting iced out without explanation. That look between players that says, "You see this too, right?" And yeah, they see it. Everybody sees it. You've got guys in that locker room who know talent when they see it. They've practiced with Shedeur, they've watched him sling it, they've seen what he brings. And when that kind of player gets sidelined for someone like Bailey Zappe, who's had more chances than impact throws, you lose faith in the decision-making. And once the players lose faith in the coaches, it's done. But what's even more frustrating is how predictable this whole thing is. It's like clockwork. The Browns find a way to take a promising situation and turn it into a headache. It's almost like they're allergic to stability. They get a young, marketable, high-upside quarterback, and instead of building around him, they bury him. Shedeur's not perfect, but he hasn't even played. That's the issue. No one's asking for him to be handed the starting job on a silver platter. People just want him to be in the mix, competing, getting snaps, learning under pressure. That's how QBs grow. But instead, Kevin Stefanski, for reasons still unknown, is pretending Shedeur's invisible. He's skipping right past him for a guy who bounced around New England and barely moved the needle there. And now he's supposed to be the one developing behind Gabriel? How does that make sense to anyone? It doesn't. And that's why this is spiraling. Not because of one bad choice, but because of a pattern, a culture. A franchise that never seems to know what it's doing with quarterbacks until it's too late. And Shannon Sharpe and Ocho? They're tired of it. That nightcap segment wasn't just sports talk, it was therapy. Two former players, venting the same frustration the fans have been feeling for years. Watching talent get misused. Watching coaching decisions that make no sense. Watching the Browns trip over themselves. Again. If the front office has any sense left, they fix this fast. Either commit to Shedeur, trade him to a team that will, or stop pretending this depth chart is based on merit. Because as it stands right now, this is a mess. A loud, public, unnecessary mess. And if the Browns think they can just keep Shedeur quiet, keep Shannon quiet, keep the fans quiet, they've got another meltdown coming. So stay loud in the comments. Let them hear it. And if you're here for more football drama that makes zero sense but all the headlines, hit that subscribe. We're not done yet.